All right, today we're jumping into this really powerful prophecy from Zechariah. It was a message given to a leader named Zerubbabel who had this monumental task. He had to rebuild Jerusalem's temple after a devastating exile, and honestly, it seemed completely impossible. We're going to explore the incredible message he received, a message that just flips our whole idea of power right on its head. So, let's start with this question, because it's really the heart of the whole thing. How do you pull off something that feels impossible? This was the reality for Zerubbabel. He wasn't just stacking stones. He was trying to rebuild the hope of a nation, and the odds were stacked against him. It's a question we all face, right? Just on a different scale. So what was God's answer?
You gotta picture the scene here. The people have returned from exile to a ruined city. That initial burst of excitement, it's gone. The massive project to rebuild the temple has just ground to a halt. They're being blocked by political enemies, they're dealing with powerful rulers, and maybe worst of all, there's this deep discouragement among the people themselves. From every human angle, the project was a total failure.
It's right into this atmosphere of defeat that the prophet Zechariah shows up with a message from God. And get this, it's not a new battle plan, it's not some clever political strategy, it's something else entirely. It's what you might call a divine formula for success. And here it is, the core of the message, right in verse 6. Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit. You see, the project had stalled because they were trying to do it all through human effort, their own might and power, and it just wasn't enough. This one sentence completely shifts the focus from their own limited strength to an unlimited divine source. So what does by my spirit actually mean? Well, the key takeaway is that the power to get this done wasn't going to come from a bigger army, or more money, or some slick political deal. No, the promise was that it would come directly from God's Spirit. This just radically reframes where true success and change actually come from. The prophecy then gives us this amazing metaphor to show what this divine power actually looks like when it gets to work. In the very next verse, verse 7, the obstacle is given a name and a size. I mean, what an incredible image, right? A great mountain, the symbol of a totally insurmountable obstacle, is basically told that it's going to become a flat plain. And notice how the temple gets finished. It's not with people shouting about their own achievements. No, it's with cries of grace, grace onto it, giving all the credit to the divine favor that made it all happen. So what was this great mountain they were facing? For Zerubbabel, this wasn't some abstract idea. It was the real-world opposition from hostile neighbors like the Samaritans. It was the potential veto from the super-powerful Persian king, Darius. And maybe the biggest obstacle of all was that mountain of discouragement and apathy rising up among his own people. And this idea of leveling mountains isn't a one-off. It's actually a recurring theme in the prophetic books. Isaiah used almost the exact same language in Isaiah chapter 40, verse 4, to describe God clearing the way for his plans. It paints this consistent picture of divine power making a path where it seems like there is no path. Okay, so after God establishes how this is going to get done by his Spirit, the prophecy then gives a direct, personal, and absolutely unshakable promise to Zerubbabel himself. This isn't just a general principle anymore, it's a specific guarantee. And just look at how clear this is in verse 9. It's a three-part promise. First, God acknowledges what he's done. The hands of Zerubbabel have laid the foundation. Then comes the promise. His hands shall also finish it. God is basically saying, you started this and I'm guaranteeing you'll finish it. And third, the result, vindication. The completion of the temple would be the ultimate proof that this message was the real deal, straight from God. Now, you can imagine there was a bit of a disconnect, right, between this huge promise and the reality on the ground, where the work looked tiny and had stalled out. So, the next part of the prophecy in verse 10 speaks directly to this human tendency we have to look down on humble beginnings. This is such a powerful rhetorical question. Who has despised the day of small things? And the implied answer is, well, we do, all the time. We see a small, struggling project and we write it off. We forget that every great oak tree starts as a tiny acorn. The prophecy is challenging that entire mindset. The verse then talks about a plummet in Zerubbabel's hand. Now, a plummet is just a builder's tool, a plumb line, basically a weight on a string to make sure walls are perfectly vertical. It's a symbol that real, actual, practical construction is starting up again. And the text says that God and all of heaven rejoiced to see it. That small act of just picking up the tools again was in itself a massive victory.
And finally, the vision does something amazing. It ties this one small construction project in Jerusalem into this grand cosmic picture of God's sovereign oversight of the entire planet.
The end of verse 10 explains that the ones rejoicing are those 7, which are then defined as the eyes of the Lord. And these eyes aren't just passively watching, no, they're actively running to and fro through the whole earth. It connects Zerubbabel's small act of faithful building to God's all-seeing, all-powerful, global providence. And this isn't a new concept here. It directly echoes a message given centuries earlier to a guy named King Asa in 2 Chronicles chapter 16, verse 9. The idea is that God's eyes are actively searching the globe, looking for people committed to him so that he can show himself strong on their behalf. Zerubbabel's little project just became one of those opportunities.
So this all leaves us with this timeless principle. True, lasting accomplishment isn't always about our own strength or power, but about plugging into a divine power that can level any mountain. Which brings us to the final question for you to think about. What great mountain in our world, or maybe even in your own life, is just waiting for a different kind of power to come and make it a plain?